Hey, I'd like to welcome everybody to Back to Health. It's my program, and we're presently at ʻIao Valley, and I'd like to introduce to you David Leonard, who's a local acupuncturist. Hi, David.
Hi, Brett.
And today we're going to do something very exciting. I've never been on an herb walk before, but David's going to take us on an herb walk. Can you tell us a little bit about what that entails?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to be wandering around ʻIao, just in the area around the temples here, and we'll be looking at medicinal plants and talking about how they're used and how they're used by different cultures, and the parts that are used, how they're prepared, etc.
Fantastic. Now, you're trained in traditional Chinese medicine, is that
Correct,
is that right?
right.
Can you tell me a little bit about where you actually learned traditional Chinese medicine?
Well, my traditional Chinese medicine training came from my Chinese teachers, Dr. ʻIao, Dr. Zhao, Dr. Lucy Feng, Dr. Sharon Feng, and my knowledge of Hawaiian medicinal plants came from the Kupuna, Kavika Ka'alakea, Keoki Souza, Uncle Bill Kanikoa, Auntie Rachel, Auntie Nani, Auntie Alice, Auntie Helen. So I've brought together different traditions as a student into one vessel, as it were, of medicinal knowledge, and I use that in my practice.
Fantastic. Sounds interesting, and I'm ready to get going.
All right.
So
Great.
we'll start off right now then.
Great.
So here we are, sort of at an area where it looks like it's just regular dirt and grass to me.
That's right. You know, it's interesting because we just started walking, and I went, there's small medicinal plants here that most people would pass up. They wouldn't see them. You know, when you're in your yard, as Uncle Bill says, you're walking in your yard and you start throwing things out and you're throwing away all the medicine. You know, this is a cousin of a Capsella, which is used on the mainland for to stop bleeding. It's used fresh. This is a different species, but it's very similar. And I noticed over here, just sitting in the dirt, I noticed over here, just sitting in the dirt, there's 3 or 4, actually there's 4, just in this one area, something you might step on and not pay any attention to. There's 4 different medicines here. This is called godakola. The Chinese call it jishui sao. It's used in Chinese medicine to cool the blood. It's good for immunity, for memory. This is oxalis. This is called ihi. It has a tiny yellow flower, and it's used to clean the kidneys. It's used for, the American Indians used it for infantile development. This is an erigeron. Excuse me, not erigeron, a euphorbia. And this is used in all cultures as a purgative. And the Chinese also use it for cancer. And this is a little tiny dandelion, which obviously is not flowering. The French called dandelion pissenlit, which means pee in the bed, because it's a diuretic. The Chinese use dandelion for liver problems. Of course, you can make wine out of it, dandelion wine. It's used for mastitis in China also, for breast infections. So there's an incredible amount of medicine just under our feet that we won't see. We just don't know is there.
Yeah. So how many of these plants that we've looked at are actually poisonous or toxic?
Actually, a lot of these plants, if used improperly, can do a lot of harm. That euphorbia we saw back there, the little creeper, is pretty toxic, and it'll cause violent diarrhea if used improperly. So it has to be prepared, yeah.
So in other words, you don't want to go out and pick these things yourself and start eating them?
No, absolutely not. You know, the best thing that you can do if you want to learn about medicinal plants is to go to your tutu, go to your grandmother, go to a professional herbalist or one of the kupuna and say, would you teach me? And oftentimes they will be glad to teach you. And to help you, you can go with it, any kind of medical problems that you might have.
Great. Or I'll just come to you.
Or you can come to me, that's right.
That sounds like a good idea. Now, you were telling me a little earlier about these plants here. They kind of look like ferns.
Yeah,
what exactly are they?
This is called lawai. The young ones, you can see that they have, the older ones have spores in the bottoms. These are the keikis. And the younger ones do not. The older ones, Uncle Harry Mitchell used to use this quite a bit, I understand. The older ones are used for sores in the legs. You boil them up and let the water cool a bit, and then if you have boils or carbuncles or a staph infection, you lay a towel on the leg and then pour the water over it with the herb tea over it to help clean out the infection. And the younger one is the leaves are stripped off, and it's used as a spring cleanse, like a liver cleanse, with the oxalis back there, the ihi that I spoke about that was used for kidney problems. But those are actually really useful medicinal plants.
Okay, let's continue on then, see what else we find. But this is getting a little more treacherous than I expected, David.
I know, we should have brought you some hiking boots. Me too.
Yeah, these nature walks are a little more dangerous than I thought. So I've seen this plant many, many places. Mind you, I haven't seen the seeds on it before. But do you want to just tell people what that is?
Yeah, this is one of the most sacred Hawaiian plants. This is called cordyline. The Hawaiians call it tea plant, and you see it around homes and things like that. Papa Kalakea will often use this when he's doing blessings. You'll sometimes see it hanging from the back of pickup trucks. The Chinese use this for threatened abortion. And the Hawaiians actually would make, it was used to cook fish in, it's used, the Chinese also use it for heat in the blood, which is bleeding as a result of infection. And the Hawaiians would make okole hau out of it, which is a liquor. The root is very sweet. This is a fantastic plant. The pico here, pico means belly button. Oh, there's not one in here because this has gone to seed, but apparently the pico, the center part, the spike, is sterile, which is what I'm told, and it can be unwrapped and used as a bandage over a wound, or it was traditionally used that way. Yeah.
Lots of different uses, as well as lau lau, of course.
Absolutely.
One of my favorites.
This is lau lau land.
Let's see if we can hike back up the hill here. So this is a really nice bamboo forest we found here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know, one thing I thought was kind of interesting is all the different branches to Chinese medicine that you were telling me about earlier. Can you kind of expand on that and tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, there's 5 major branches. There's minor branches of Chinese medicine. There's acupuncture, which is inserting needles into the skin to move energy. Herbal medicine, massage or tuina, diet, food medicine, and qigong, which is martial arts breathing exercises. I practice and teach all of those, and I use all those with my patients. I'll teach them qigong, or I'll make dietary recommendations, do acupuncture, body work, etc.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe I could make you a victim. Could you be my next
well,
victim?
I think we'll see how it goes. I wouldn't mind trying that, depending on which aspect we're going to look at. I have, it's been a long time since I've actually had acupuncture done with the needles, so maybe if
oh, good. Well,
we've got some time at the end,
it's actually
it'd be nice
quite comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
I'll ask you more about that later. What are these plants we have right here?
This is these are impatiens. These are very common plants. They're some of these are toxic, so you don't want to just go chowing down on them. As far as I know, I've never heard any of the kupuna talk about using these, but the Chinese will use these to invigorate the blood. They'll use them for injuries, anything that invigorates the blood. The Chinese have a belief that when you are wounded or when there's contusion, you have blood stagnation. And things that invigorate the blood will stop pain. And these are used for that purpose, and also for any large masses, things like that in the body. Obviously, you don't want to use this if you're pregnant. It's not the kind of thing you would take. Any herb you don't want to take if you're pregnant, unless you're being supervised by a healthcare provider. Yeah, this is very pretty.
So you said one of the different branches of Chinese medicine was massage. Is that like a regular massage, or is that something that would be different?
It's the Chinese call it tuina, and it's very specific. It works with the meridians in the body rather than like Swedish massage or deep tissue massage. It works specifically with the energy in the body, balancing the meridians. So when a Chinese doctor will look at you, or if I look at my patient, I will take their pulse, look at their tongue, and ask them a lot of unusual questions about things that to you or I wouldn't necessarily make any sense, or to Westerners wouldn't make any sense, but To a Chinese practitioner, that will indicate different kinds of imbalances. So we'll do the body work to harmonize the body and create balance.
Okay, that makes sense. Now here's one of my favorite trees anyway. It is a tree, isn't it? Or is it not?
It's
Looks like a tree.
a bush plant.
But bamboo.
This is,
What can you tell me about bamboo?
Bamboo makes a great walking stick. It's also, the Chinese use the sap for lung infections. It's considered cooling. So infections tend to create heat in the body, and the sap from the bamboo is very cooling. It'll tend to cool the heat, used for sore throats, anything that has heat rising in the body. They'll also shave these stalks and use that for the same thing, for bronchitis, asthma, things like that.
And then you can eat the baby shoots as well, right?
Yes, yes you can.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's also over here, I saw some plantain. This is an amazing plant. I've seen this plant in Europe. I've seen it in South America. One of my best friends cured his son of infantile jaundice with this plant.
Hmm.
The child had been sick for months and they couldn't get rid of the jaundice, and the grandmother said, try this. And within 24 hours the jaundice was gone. Obviously,
Powerful.
again, yeah, and it's very common. It's like I say, I've seen it in Europe, I've seen it in Asia, I've seen it in South America, and the Hawaiians call it laukahi. It's Plantago major. The Chinese call it chichansao. The Chinese will use it as a diuretic, meaning it will cause urination, increase the flow of urine. It's used for bladder infections, lung infections. The Cherokee would use it when a child wasn't learning to walk quickly enough. It was used for to help children develop more smoothly, what the Hawaiians call the manava, or the timing of child's growth.
Lots of different uses. Now, would that be a small plant or would that be a large plant?
It can get very big. I've seen Uncle Bill Kanikoa has some in his yard that are huge, you know. Although it can be very tiny. You can see here there's little tiny ones growing. There's some more gotakola. There's a little tiny laukahi there.
So this is a baby sort of plant, but it can get a lot bigger.
Yeah, it can get very large. Now, when you're picking plants, if you do ever decide to actually use a plant under supervision of an elder, you want to pick away from the roads, and you want to pick always on the Mauka side, on the uphill side of a road, because the oil from the cars will go downhill and wash down and get into the plants. Yeah, so if you are going to pick by the road, pick on the uphill side.
Now, is this a toxic plant or this is not?
This is very safe.
This
is
a
very
safe
safe.
plant.
This could be
Great.
considered a food.
Well,
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah.
That's nice to know. Now,
Although it
over
doesn't
here,
taste very good.
oh, it doesn't taste
No.
that good? See, over here, we've got a tree that everybody's probably seen before.
Yeah, this is kukui. Kukui means light in Hawaiian. Do you remember the euphorbia I said was toxic?
Yes.
This is the same family, believe it or not, as that little tiny
It's
plant.
a little different in size, aren't they?
Yeah. This is used as a cathartic to move the bowels. It's kukui means light because the Hawaiians would take the oil from the nut and use it to burn torches. I've heard a story. Lyons Nauni told a story once of a little girl who was in a coma, and a little girl was in a coma. A tutu apparently took some of the flowers and crushed them up and blew it up her nose, and supposedly the little girl regained consciousness. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's an interesting story.
Is that that's one of the uses?
I don't know. That's what I've heard. Again, it's toxic, so you don't want to try this at home.
So don't go blowing this stuff up your nose.
No, don't stick this up your nose.
Not at home, anyway.
The nuts are also used on the belly of pregnant women postpartum. The oil is used to get rid of stretch marks.
Ah.
And if you take the nut, we don't have one here, you take the nut and you open it up, there's a little sap that comes out. You can put it on the gums for teething. It's very numbing on babies when they're
So I've got a
teething.
few wrinkles here, not many, of course, but
No.
a couple. Will that help with my wrinkles?
That's a good question. I don't know. It depends if it's
If it helps-
postpartum or not.
If it helps
Yeah.
with postpartum
Right.
tightening of the skin,
Stretching.
then
I
maybe it
don't
would help
know.
with my face.
But
That's
it's,
interesting.
yeah. Great.
Okay, well, let's continue on then. That was really interesting. Now, you were telling me a little bit about this book you're writing. So, if, there's no way we can cover everything in one day.
No, there's a lot of plants.
So,
right.
What's happening with the book?
Well, I'm writing a book of medicinal plants of Hawaii, about medicinal plants of Hawaii, showing the way different cultures have used the plants which grow here. Some of these plants are used, well, the endemic ones were used only by the Hawaiians because they only grew here, but other plants that are here weren't used by the Hawaiians, but were used by Europeans. Some were used by Native Americans. Some were used in South America, Asia. So, yeah, the Chinese. Okay. Yeah.
That sounds like an interesting book. Now, what have we got over here?
This is called Paulos. This is Solanum nigrum. This is actually a really fascinating plant. This is toxic. It's mildly toxic, so you don't want to be experimenting with it yourself. Popolo means black in Hawaiian because the berries get very dark blue or black.
Oh.
There's a lot of mythology around this. The Cherokee would use this when somebody was grieving for a death in the family, for a relative that had died. And interestingly enough, they would give it to the person. The Hawaiians also have a mythos around this, around loneliness. Papa Kalakea says that when you're picking popolo, you only pick the ones that are alone. Because if I were to pick this popolo and there's others nearby, these would get jealous. So something about this plant is related cross-culturally to loneliness. It's also used, the berries are very sweet. They're quite delicious actually, but again, poisonous, so be careful. They were rubbed on the child's head to soothe a baby that was crying. The Chinese use it for...
Does that promote hair growth by any chance?
It might.
I think I'll be getting on that then.
The Chinese use it for lung infections. It's used as an herbal antibiotic. Oh, here's some. You can see right here. This is the color of the berries when they're ripe. This is the same plant family as tobacco, as eggplant.
That is dark.
A lot of the nightshades are toxic, as belladonna. So they're all the same family, so you want to be careful with them. And here is another plant that's used as an antibiotic. This is called ʻIao japonica.
Which one are you pointing at exactly?
This one. Actually, I think there's a better sample right here. This is called ʻIao japonica, and this was used for urinary tract infections in China, lung infections as a general antibiotic. The Chinese organize their herbs by taste because herbs that are bitter tend to have a lot of alkaloids in them, and those alkaloids tend to work very good on infections. Herbs that were sweet tended to have a lot of polysaccharides in them, so those herbs were used a lot for immune boosting. Herbs that were sour, they say, worked on the liver. So oftentimes they would taste an herb, and if it was bitter, they knew it had alkaloids in it, therefore it was probably very good for infections in traditional medicine. Great. This is called, this is another very interesting plant here. This is called hono grass. This is a camelina, a wandering Jew. And it's used, the Hawaiians would use it for infections, not infections, excuse me, for dirt and flecks of dirt in the eye. They would take that and they would squeeze out that juice, and they would take it and take pieces of dirt and dust out of the eye with it. It's very soothing. You can see it's very, what they call vali vali, means slimy. And that's used a lot in China also. Because it's so softening and moistening, it's used in the digestion to any kind of digestive inflammation, enteritis, colitis, ulcers, things like that. It's also edible. There's a beautiful little blue flower that grows there. You see that?
No, it is really slimy.
It is fed to pigs also.
The whole plant is edible, or just the blue flower?
The tops are edible, but the whole plant can be used as medicine. You know, there's a lot of different species of that.
So you've gone over a lot of information here today. If anybody has any other questions or anything like that with respect to any of the plants we went over, or maybe some other plants that may be medicinal or anything along those lines, is there a number that a person could get a hold of you at to
Yeah, my voicemail
Answer
is
some questions.
573-3600, and I'm always available to answer questions about plants, medicinal plants or otherwise.
Okay, because I think there's so much information.
There's a
No
lot.
way
We've
we
only
can
scratched
cover it
the
all.
surface, absolutely. This is called Maili Hohono. The Chinese use this for broken bones and also for lung infections like so many other plants. The Chinese call it baihuasao, which means white flower grass. These are purple, so obviously the ones in China were a different species. This is one of Uncle Bill Kanekoa's favorite plants. He uses this for hemorrhoids. It's steamed, and then, as you can imagine, it's sort of steamed in the appropriate area. And if you can smell
And
it,
that helps?
yeah, apparently so. If you can smell it, it has a funny smell. Ahono means stinky, means smelly.
But it's not a bad smell.
No, it's just
not
interesting. It's just an interesting smell. Yeah. It's also used for howley rot. It's quaintly termed howley rot, right? Where fungus, where it's mashed up and put on the skin. It's used a lot topically in China and by the Hawaiians. Mashed up, put on the skin, and then apparently it's antifungal.
So this would be an antifungal type plant. Now, how would if you were to prepare that? Because that's something anybody could probably prepare on their own, right?
Topically, yeah.
What do you do? Just take the whole leaf, or do you take the stem?
You can take the whole plant and mash it up and juice it and then put it on your skin. Only for howleys, of course. Put it on your skin. Yeah.
But actually, a lot of people do get what's called howley rot. It's not just howleys.
Of course, of course.
It's a fungal infection that'll affect your skin.
Right.
And it can cause discoloration of the skin, and it's on the surface layer. So that's something interesting.
That's the traditional use. Yeah, absolutely. This is
Now this is the same plant that we were just talking about previously, but it's an example of that flower there, which is so cute.
Yeah, this is the Commelina flower, the wandering Jew, the honohono grass flower, and you can see. Great.
So what exactly do we have here? Is this a fern tree or what?
Interesting looking plant. Yeah, this is a fern. See the frond in here? It's very interesting. The curlicue. This is called hapo'u.
Yeah, that's the curlicue.
Yeah,
exactly. The part where it grows and comes up into one of these ones.
Right. This is the Hawaiians use this for burns. They would use it was also used for mattress stuffings, which is now illegal. But they would use this fuzzy stuff for stuff mattresses with and export it.
Does it kill the tree when you pull this stuff off?
No, it shouldn't. But you know how people get. They get a little carried away with their greed and they kill things, right?
If they take this curlicue.
Well, then there's no keiki out of there, right? This is yeah, this is used for burns. It was mashed up and mixed with water. It would harden kind of like a cast, and then it would supposedly protect the skin and heal without scarring. And the root of this was used by there's a cousin of this, another sabotum, and the Chinese used the root of it for things like impotence, low back pain. It's what's called a yang tonic. It works on the adrenal axis in the body.
So it activates the adrenal glands.
It activates the adrenal glands and a lot of other endocrine system. And it was also used for broken bones and for traumatic injuries. It's called goji in Chinese.
If it's goji.
Goji means dog spine.
Oh.
And when you smell it, it smells like a wet dog. It's very interesting, the plant.
Can I smell that now?
This one, I don't know. This is a different species. But
yeah, I guess it is kind of like a wet dog. You get the hair up the nose and everything.
Right.
When you're using it to treat something like a broken bone, is this something that you ingest, or is it rubbed on the area where the bone was
The
broken?
Chinese would use it. The Chinese would use the root. It would be cut up, dried, and decocted, which means cooked for 20, 30 minutes.
Oh.
The Chinese used a lot of roots because they stored very well. So they would use the roots, because China's been an urban culture for 2,000 years, so they've been in cities that long. So they used a lot of roots, whereas the Hawaiians were not such an urban culture, would use a lot of leaves and branches because they could go out and pick things right away and use them immediately. So it's just different styles of herbalism.
Wow, that's a beautiful looking banana tree.
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that grows in the tropics all over the world.
What stage is that at? Because those are little bananas.
Those are little keikis, yeah. And see on the tip there's the flower. That flower actually, I've heard, has been used for different kinds of colon cancer in Hawaiian medicine. I know Auntie Nani uses the sap from that banana tree for lung infections, asthma, what the Hawaiians call pa'a, which is when phlegm is sticky phlegm in the lungs. I've tried it. It is really unpleasant tasting.
Not one of those things you want to just go out and drink.
No, you probably wouldn't just munch down on it. What Auntie Nani will do is she will take the leaf, cut it off, and tape a Dixie cup to the tip, and the liquid will drip out. And then you drink it.
Straight or with a little?
If you're
With a
brave,
little additive.
straight. But if you're not so brave, then probably with orange juice. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, as a chaser.
And what was this little plant here at the base of the banana tree?
This is a desmodium. This is used, well, in Hawaiian medicine. It apparently used to be used, smoked for asthma. I don't know how effective it was. But these are the little hitchhikers that
Well,
you
that
always get.
That wouldn't be so good, smoking stuff for asthma.
No, I wouldn't recommend it. No, I wouldn't recommend
But that's
smoking
what they used to
anything.
use it for?
Yeah,
And these-
apparently.
These little sticker things are the things that always get caught on my socks.
Yeah, these
that
are
I
the
can't wash
flowers,
out.
and these are the seeds, exactly. And matter of fact, the name in Hawaiian is pua pili pili. And pua means flower, and pili pili means sticky.
Ah.
So it's flowers that stick.
But it's not actually the flowers that stick, it's this thing.
It's that, yes. Yes, and the Chinese use this for sore throats. It's used a lot for sore
To
throats.
create sore throats? Swallow
Only if you
these
smoke it.
3 times a day and you'll be guaranteed to have a sore throat.
Your throat will be sore. It's used in
So-
Hong Kong a lot,
And how do
actually.
they do that? They boil it to prepare it?
The whole
or
plant
it's like
is used
a tea?
and boiled, yeah.
The whole plant?
Yeah, the whole plant, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, David. I appreciate you taking us on this walk.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been a wonderful experience for me. It's amazing when you take the time to sit and look at all these little plants that are around us. There's so many different functions that they can be used for.
Even here, plants we haven't even discussed yet. These are medicinal. It's fantastic.
So
Yeah.
there's many, many more things. There's no way we can cover it all. So if anyone's interested, they can check your book out whenever that's finished, which
That should be done by next year.
next year.
Yeah.
That's excellent. And then, is there anybody that you wanted to thank for?
Yeah, I want to thank my kupuna, my elders, my Hawaiian teachers for sharing their manao with me. It's really been an honor studying with them and learning about this medicine and this life, this mana that grows all around us.
And I wanted to thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation of all the different plants
Oh, you're
and
welcome.
everything.
Great.
And I'd like to ask everybody to come back and join our show, Back to Health. We'll be showing twice in a month, and each month we'll be doing different topics and shows.
I'll be watching.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.